I can remember arriving, being on a playground, you hear gunfire in the distance, and I turned to a little boy and I said, "Did you hear that?" And he says, "Oh yeah, that's just somebody getting shot."
It breaks your heart, but at the same time, it gives you energy to keep going.
The closer we get to the Catholic schools in Los Angeles, the more we appreciate the wonderful work they do.
We've got a good model that recreates what we need here in the community of Watts.
Welcome. My name is Katie Kevorkian, and I am the Associate Director of Development at the Catholic Education Foundation. And this is our 9th weekly Coffee with CEF program. So thank you so much for being here today. We also have Johnny with us too, my colleague. Johnny, could you introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. I'm glad everyone joined us this morning. I will be your technical assistance for the day. And so if you have any questions or any difficulties going on, just go ahead and type it in the chat box. And any questions for our guests as well, too. Happy to facilitate that over to Katie. Thank you, everybody.
Nice shirt, Johnny. I see that you wore your CEF uniform today.
Me and Scott are matching. We both got blue shirts.
Nice.
The helpful CF guy.
Yeah, that's right. We have some really awesome special guests today. It's a real pleasure to have them. So this morning we're taking a field trip to Watts, and joining us this morning are Father Matt Elshoff, the pastor, Alicia Camacho, the principal, and Tim Smith, the president of the Board of Trustees of the Catholic Education Foundation. I see that we have a lot of other guests today, so thank you all for coming. We're really, really happy to see you. And if this is your first time joining us, welcome. To give you a little bit of background about the Catholic Education Foundation, we provide tuition awards to thousands of students every year, and that's thanks to the support of our donors. So we hope that this program can provide just a brief glimpse into the lives of the students and the families that we serve in our inner city Catholic schools. We'll be back on Wednesdays at 10 a.m., but just for 2 more weeks until we go on hiatus for the summer, or as the kids call it, summer vacation. We'll be back to school and back to CEF programming in the fall with new Coffee with CEF programs. Last week, we had our first international Coffee with CEF, and we had guest speaker Martina Amengual, who joined us from Buenos Aires, Argentina, and she works for Scholas International, which is opening a new headquarters for the United States in Los Angeles. If you'd like to view last week's event, you can check it out at cefbn.org/coffeewithcef, and we have recordings of all our past events on our website. So this week, I am thrilled to welcome Alicia and Father Matt from one of my favorite schools, and Tim Smith, who's one of my favorite people. To give you a little bit of background on these awesome guests, Alicia received her bachelor's degree from California State University, Dominguez Hills, and then her Master of Education from Loyola Marymount University. She received her preliminary credentials also from LMU, and then she cleared her credential at Mount St. Mary's University. She began her teaching career at St. Lawrence before teaching at another Catholic school and spending a few years in the classroom with Los Angeles Unified School District. And then she returned to St. Lawrence as a principal 4 years ago and has not stopped smiling since. Father Matt not only attended St. Francis High School, which is up in La Cañada, as a student, but he served there for many years until his election as provincial minister in June 2008. He was president of St. Francis School and worked hard to make sure it prospered not only academically, but also as a place where Franciscan virtues could be taught and practiced by both faculty and students. Over the years, Father Matt has also served the province as a formation director, vocation director, and a marriage and family counselor. He took a sabbatical to northern Mexico before returning to serve as the pastor of Old Mission Santa Ynez, and now he serves as the pastor of St. Lawrence Brindisi in Watts. I didn't write a bio for Tim, so I'm going to do some guessing about Tim. And Tim, you can tell me if I'm right, all right? So I think Tim went to Loyola High School, and I think he went to Santa Clara University because he couldn't get enough of those Jesuits.
Correct.
Yes, correct. He owns Bob Smith BMW and Mini, and that's out in Calabasas. He's the president of the board of the Catholic Education Foundation. He enjoys traveling and playing golf and doing both at the same time. Is that a good one?
Very good. Thank you.
Yes. Tim, thank you so much for joining us today. So after 9 hours of me hosting this event, I need a break. And I would love if you could take over for me today, if that's all right with you. So first, could you tell us about your history of involvement with CEF? And then the show is yours.
Well, quite a few years ago, I think close to 30 years ago, I went to a reception in Pasadena, and a fellow by the name of Ray Rodino was telling us, those who attended, about the Catholic Education Foundation. And my reaction there was, we were raising kids at the time, and it was really important to us that our kids receive good educations, good Catholic education. It was important, and we were willing to spend money to do that. In other words, we chose private school tuitions, and I was beginning to understand how much it costs to raise kids and how much education is an important component in that budget. And I thought, the people in the inner city, they want the same things for their kids as we want for ours. So they have dreams just like we do. And so that really motivated me to get involved. And I said the wrong thing somewhere along the line, and I got on the board of trustees, and I've been there, I think, close to 25 years or thereabouts. And the other thing that was a profound influence on me, we used to do the allocations regionally, and I was on the regional allocations committee out in the valley, and I saw the financial profiles of the people we were supporting. And I was really amazed at how do they make ends meet. So a few years ago now, about 7 years ago, I became the president, and hopefully we are guiding it, CEF, in the right direction. It's such an important mission. And for a fundraiser, it's really, there's nobody that doesn't think this is important. If you can't raise money for the Catholic Education Foundation, you can't raise money. It's something we all share. And to me, it's not like giving contributions. It's investments. It's investments in our young people, many of which come right back to the schools they came from, and teach and administrate. And so we're so blessed to have them educate our young people again. And it's really neat to be able to support them. So that's how I got involved.
Well, there's one more thing I forgot before I let you take over. I forgot to ask what you've got to drink this morning, since we're supposed to be having coffee with CEF today.
Well, the important thing is it's what it's in. And this is a mug that was the, I think it was, if some of you remember Sister Mary Jean Meyer, I think it was either her 75th or 80th birthday party, which supported Catholic Education Foundation. On one side, it's got her picture when she was in grade school, and here is the mug. And I've got water in there. I don't like hot coffee, and I don't like hot tea.
Well, I'm glad you're using the mug. Thank you.
I wonder what Father Matt and Alicia have in their mugs.
I have coffee, but I drink it all day. And with God, all things are possible. Cheers.
And I'm with you. I don't really like coffee. I love the smell, but I can't get myself to drink it. I feel more thirsty than I was prior to doing that. So I think it defeats the purpose. But I love hot green tea. That I love, with a little bit of honey.
All right, Katie, are you putting me to work here? I think we should start with Alicia and Father Matt, let's talk about St. Lawrence Brindisi School.
Go
So
ahead.
let me just give it an overview real quickly of the parish, and then I'll let Alicia move into the school. So St. Lawrence of Brindisi is founded in 1908, and it's originally called Holy Redeemer. The Capuchins are given stewardship of the parish in 1922, and in 1924 we open our doors. We open the doors of a school with the Sisters of Notre Dame. So the school has been in operation since 1924. We serve the community of Watts, which includes the housing communities of Dixon Gardens, Imperial Court, and Jordan Downs. And the population is now 70% Hispanic, 30% African American. So having said that, let me turn it over to Alicia and let her speak to the school, and then I'll join later.
Thank you, Father Matt. So I would also like to point out the admiration that I have for our students and our families, because geographically we are located in a very challenging part of the city with many needs, from financial situations, from just the safety of the kids in general and families as well. I want to give you just a simple example as, when the kids go home from here, many of them cannot go outside and play with their bikes and, do things that most kids do after school. Besides that, I admire their resilience. It's just amazing how our families and our kids can just let that to the side and continue with life and just having all those same goals, like Tim said. Very well said. We want to make sure that we provide not only, a place for safety during school hours, but we want to make sure that we also do our part after school. And that is one of the elements that we took into consideration into the new school model that we're going to start implement. And those things, two things that we took into consideration when coming up with this model was the need for after school care for our families, and also bringing a safe environment after hours when, everybody goes home. And what do the kids do next?
We wanted to get ahead of the curve when we realized that long distance learning was going to be longer than 2 weeks. And we did some studies. We learned that between 20 and 30% of Catholic school, grammar school, and high schools would close their doors across the United States. And we were not going to be one of those. So with Catholic School Collaborative, Ellen Holton, Steve Johnson, Ms. Camacho, Alicia, and myself, we started to work on this model immediately, as in the first week of April, and then presented to our major stakeholders, because our goal was to totally rethink Catholic education as it should be done here in a community called Watts.
You can see what our mission is in coming up with this new model, and is that we ground our students in the ways of our Catholic faith, following the Franciscan traditions of living the gospel values. We want to help our students grow and become the best version of themselves, and we want to grow together to foster a prosperous community. And during the day, it has 4 different components. 2 important things that we talked about at the beginning that were the needs of our community, and one of them is having an extended day. Typical school gets out to 3 p.m. Our new model, we have the opportunity to have our kids until 5:15 in the afternoon, and they're coming in at 7:15. Our typical day will have 4 different components. A learning lab. This is where our kids come and get the individualized type of education that they need. The other one is the workshop, which is mostly what we think of in a traditional classroom, but it's not traditional because we will have specialized teachers. So instead of having a kindergarten teacher, first grade teacher, now we'll have ELA teachers, math teachers, and content teachers. And the other block is electives. We have, as part of our new model, the social emotional component is very important. And we also want to make sure that our kids have time to think. In a traditional classroom, we do give kids time to think, but usually we tell them what to think about. So we want to make sure that this part is also incorporated. Also, we're going to make sure that the kids have 3 meals during the school day: their breakfast, lunch, and then supper. One of their community needs is the homework help. And that has been one of the needs expressed to us along the years. And then the after school care, making sure that they have a safe environment after school.
Our goal was to incorporate this social emotional learning into individualized and specialized learning with these, into a learning model for our students in this community of Watts. Ms. Camacho and I have looked at different charter schools, Da Vinci, Rocket Ship, Mar Vista, that have helped students achieve their best through this individualized and personalized learning. And we wanted to do the same for our students here in the community of Watts. And so we have done our homework in that we have done site visits to their homes to learn more about the conditions in which they live. Do they eat it? Are they given meals? What are the child care concerns? What is the work schedules, if they're indeed working? We learned a lot about the functioning of the families or the lack thereof as a result of these home site visits. And we wanted to offer the kids the same opportunities that these charter or private academies offer to their students. And I think we've got a model that works in 3 different variations that helps us to achieve that, especially by way of this instruction lab, but with this social emotional learning component that speaks to the violence and the impact that these students deal with on a regular basis. I mean, I can remember arriving, being on a playground, you hear gunfire in the distance, and I turned to a little boy and I said, "Did you hear that?" And he says, "Oh yeah, that's just somebody getting shot." And he scurried off, to play. And then he's got to go in and pick up a book and read.
Father Matt, while you took the vow of obedience, I sense that this is exactly where you want to be. If I'm correct, why?
Obviously, I've had a strong background in education and was involved with education on administrative and teaching level at St. Francis High School. But coming here speaks to the heart of my vocation.
Alicia, what's your enrollment number this past year?
Last year, it was 315 students.
How many?
315.
That's pretty darn good.
Yes, we do have a couple of wait lists, and especially in middle school. And it's really sad for me to say no sometimes, see their families ask. Of course, they value a Catholic education, but they're also very grateful for how the safety that we provide. So it does break my heart that sometimes I do have to say that we don't have room because we are full in middle school.
And are you K through 8?
TK, transitional kinder through 8. We started transitional kinder 2 years ago. And our goal enrollment was 20 kids. And we were able to do that starting the first year. We knew that was a great need for the community as well, because our TK program is a full day. So it allows families to be able to work and be able to do other things while their kids are here.
How much is your tuition?
It's $2,400. That was this year. And we had talked about increasing it $100 more for the next school year. So it's going to be $2,500.
Can you imagine? Do you have any idea how much it costs per student?
It costs close to $4,000. So by looking at our data, we saw that what we get from tuition from families is about 11% of what we need to really educate the kids. So we work a lot on applying for grants and just generosity of people, and people like from Catholic Schools Collaborative that I have no words to thank them, because they have given us so many resources that we would not be able to give our kids. We have many angels around us that really help us make this possible.
The families are able to pay some money for tuition?
They do, and there are some that don't. And we have a few that do pay full tuition. It's a wonderful thing to see that we have a few kids of alum, and most of them are the ones that are able to pay. But from 216 families, we have about 20 that are able to pay it. But then everybody else is in some type of financial aid.
It's interesting, the 3 meals a day. Do these families have trouble even feeding their kids?
Yes, we have discovered that a lot of our kids do not have breakfast at home. Our plan with the new model is that they have breakfast in the morning as soon as they arrive, 7:15 to 7:30. And then after that, they'll have the first lab. And then the third meal, that one we already have a program set that the Board of Saints of St. Lawrence helps us run. And we do feed the kids that stay for literacy, that stay for sports, and any other after school program through the food bank. So we already have that program. So the kids that stay already get that extra meal. What we're trying to provide is 3 meals and then an after school program that the kids can stay here and be safe and do their homework.
Where do the kids go out of 8th grade to high school?
We'll actually have our students go all over Los Angeles. So we have students right now at Verbum Day, St. Mary's, Bishop Connolly, Bishop Montgomery. We have students at Notre Dame Academy, Salesian Cathedral, Pius Matthias. This year, we're going to have 2 of our girls going to St. Joseph's. We've had graduates from Loyola as well. So they're, and also charter schools and public schools around here too, but they're all over LA.
And where do your teachers come from?
So we do have a teacher that lives in the community. She was born and raised and still lives in the community. And then we have teachers that they lived around here in Hawthorne, Inglewood, the Lenox area, Gardena, and Norwalk.
How would you characterize their work? Are they in ministry as well as?
Oh, it's definitely a vocation. I have the utmost respect for them. We don't have working hours, although I try to tell them Sundays, we don't text on Sundays, but you know, when things need to get done, things need to get done. And especially right now with the distance learning, we were able to put that together in about 48 hours. And it was a learning experience. We were very blessed with the resources that we already had, but without their effort, it just wouldn't be possible. So
was it a learning experience to go into the homes?
It was. And we've always known from the experience, from what we see, from what the kids tell us, you know, we have a Shields for Families here that is here 7 days a week. And so we have services for families of counseling and stuff like that. And we have been able to find out a lot of the realities from our kids, but having the experience to go and actually see it for ourselves, we have learned a lot. It's been a humbling experience, and it breaks your heart, but at the same time, it gives you energy to keep going.
COVID-19 has made it very difficult for them to work as well, I would imagine, huh?
Yes, we've had, when it all started, at least, you know, a couple of emails, phone calls saying, I lost my job. Can you wait? What can we do? So we have been able to, you know, we're in this together. So we all have to do our part. One of the things that we had to do, and we gladly did it, was to cancel all the fundraising, for example, in service hours for the second half of the year, which made a great impact, but it was a really a big help for our parents that didn't have to worry about that part. And then we've had to provide a little bit more financial help or come up with different programs and waiting for them whenever they can to pay. And we've had actually 2 families that had the illness and went through it, and thank God they're okay now.
I've got a question from the audience. Tim, I would actually love it if you could tell us, because you know all about this, and you've been at CEF obviously much longer than I have. So how much support does CEF give to individual students? And then Alicia, the second part of this question is, what is the total support that St. Lawrence Brindisi receives?
The level of on our tuition grants is for the elementary schools is $1,000 for each student. The high school students are 2,000 per student. And that's where you see the gap is so big. You run a tight ship, Father Matt and Alicia. That's at 2,500 or, at 4,000 is on the low side. And the thing that concerns us is how that gap is getting greater. In other words, we've been at $1,000 for quite a few years, and the teachers, after all, have to get paid. And so that gap grows, and it's particularly at the high school level. And it's really important that we get the kids to not only finish the Catholic elementary school, but also go to a Catholic high school. And I don't think you give yourself enough credit for the amount of formation that is involved, the Catholic experience that you give these kids, and also by your example. And this is something they would see nowhere else. So what a value, what an investment. Alicia, you get to answer the rest of the question.
Sure. So for a 2019-2020 school year, 219 of our students qualified for CEF. So that added up to $220,000 approximately. So that just tells you CEF is definitely the what makes this possible in a greatest part. We encourage all our families to apply. We do provide help to apply because some of them do not do taxes. So we go through the process. We have a meeting in February. So we make sure that they do that. And we're just very grateful because we couldn't have our doors open without CEF.
Father Matt went on a sabbatical, and he didn't go to the Hawaiian Islands. He went to Mexico. And I'm sure you were not in, this was a good preparation for what you're doing now. Is that correct?
Right. After I finished my term as provincial, I took a sabbatical and worked with our friars in northern Mexico to work on my Spanish, and also to get to know the Mexican people better, their cultures, their traditions. While I'd spent a lot of time down there as provincial, I really wanted to immerse myself in the culture, to learn it, as well as learn the language, and then came back all the richer and stronger. Watts has been, I should say, St. Lawrence of Brindisi here in Watts has been sort of the flagship for the Capuchin friars' work with the poor. As I say, we took stewardship of the parish in 1922, and it's gone through various alliterations. When it was back in the archives in 1925, the majority of, there were like, 650 families, and they were Mexican Americans. And there were only 80 Black families in the parish at the time. Obviously, it's gone through many different phases over these years. And as I mentioned, right now, it is 70% Hispanic, 30% African American. But it does speak to my heart. I mean, this is why I signed on the dotted line to be a Franciscan friar, and the joy that these people have, in spite of the fact that life is extremely challenging for them, is an inspiration to me and gives me an opportunity to embrace my faith and embrace my life as a friar. I'm extremely happy. God's been very good to me.
Some of us have it pretty good, and maybe we take our faith for granted. I don't think they do.
No, they truly depend upon their faith. I mean, there's challenges, but they say, God willing, this will take place. God will help us. He'll get us through this. We found that out I found that out here as just being a parish priest, but then, you walk through the streets and you experience these people, and you carry the Blessed Sacrament, and they come out of their homes in droves. They kneel in the sidewalks, gutters, asking for a blessing. Young men who are tatted up and obviously live on a rougher side of life will kneel down and just sob and start confessing their sins. I mean, it's been one of the most heartwarming and heartbreaking experiences you see the love that they have for their faith, and how during this time in which our doors have been shuttered, they have not been able to be there before the Blessed Sacrament. And they have a great love of the Blessed Sacrament.
They come in big numbers to Mass when Mass is on, don't they?
We do. We probably have about between 4,000 and 5,000 that come through here on a weekend. And our earliest Mass is 6 a.m. And by 6:50, the church is 90% filled. Now, we only seat 500, but we have another 100 that stand. And we have had start at 6 and we finish at 6:30 on Sunday. So it's a busy place.
A lot of work too.
It's a wonderful place. Well, it is, yeah. But that, you know what, they're very giving too.
I noticed when talking to you and Alicia, you went around to their homes and you learned a lot by doing that. And I feel like that's a very good business principle in terms of finding out what your customers want and giving it to them. And I think that's what you tried to do. Maybe you learned that at St. Francis.
Well, I learned that at different times in different ways along the way. There's no question about that. But here, in a special way, there's so many unique circumstances. Are people working? If so, what are their hours? How many jobs do they hold in the course of a day? 2 and 3 at times. The conditions in which they live. I mean, 12, 15 people in a very, very, very small little apartment or small home. And yet their willingness to share. Take this, here, have something to eat. You know, we just baked this, here's some enchiladas, here's some tacos, whatever. I mean, the generosity from their hearts is just, it's just heartwarming. But yes, we have learned a lot as a result of Shuttered in Place because we took to the streets.
Yeah, in your experience at St. Francis, you obviously came across a lot of kids that went to a lot of grammar schools and probably for the most part quite prepared. And my impression is, are as poor as these schools are and as low as their budgets are, these kids are ready for high school when you're done. Do you see that?
Yes, thanks to Catholic School Collaborative, we have these adaptive learning programs. So when we went dark on March 13th, Alicia had done her homework. She had done a survey and she knew what families had internet, what families had some type of computer device, and which ones didn't. So the following week, Monday, Tuesday, she held faculty meetings. On Wednesday, we went live with long distance learning. And it was because of these adaptive, online programs that Catholic School Collaborative has been working with us with over the past 3 or 4 years. And with that, and also the fact that in September, we were able to complete in the ratio of 1-to-1 of a computer, a tablet or an iPad or Chromebook to a student. We were able to meet the needs of the kids and send either a Chromebook or an iPad home. And if they didn't have internet, the ones that the Archdiocese provides have, I think it's a Sprint package attached to it. So they had access to internet. Through all of this, we were up and running and ready to meet the needs of these kids and their families. Now the parents are the ones that picked up a lot of the day-to-day management, obviously, of a classroom, because the teacher can only do so much. So what we're doing is, I mentioned at the beginning, we were concerned when we heard that there could be a 20 to 30% drop in enrollment. And again, we didn't want that to happen here. So what we did is we have created a virtual summer camp called Camp St. Lawrence. And again, in conjunction with Catholic School Collaborative, we're using a program called Redbird, which is a STEM program, science, technology, engineering, and math. And they have all these very creative, wonderful opportunities to, go to the Antarctic and figure out how do you live there using these STEM principles. And we're providing this free to our parents as a way of saying thank you for the extra burden that they assumed while the kids were at home. In addition, there's a program called Butterfly, which is more of a socio-emotional component that we're providing for the parents to be able to help them to cope with some of the challenges they're now facing, both technology as well as emotional management of the kids. So that is, and that was, we didn't want to lose enrollment. And so we said, you know, when you re-enroll, this is going to be provided free of charge. This is our way of saying thank you. And it's been met with great, great gratitude.
Well, one way you say thank you is get their homework done before the kids get home. There's
Well,
nothing worse than working all day and then going home and trying to get your kids' homework done too, I think, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely. We've got a good model that recreates what we need here in the community of Watts, that is something that gives a parent, you know, pause to say, yeah, I could go down the street to the local public school because some of this is long distance learning, but yet the Catholic faith and their outreach by way of the school is something that still draws us. They're still interested in us beyond providing a platform in which to educate. And the Franciscan values, we're introducing a Franciscan Spirit and Life program like they have at St. Francis High School, in which there are virtues that obviously tie to the gospel that reflect Franciscan approach to living, that these kids will be introduced to, and on a regular basis, on a quarterly basis, modeled in different ways, taught, and they're given, and there'll be an experience of them as well, an experiential component to them. So we're constantly looking for ways to reach out and say, yes, the Catholic school is still the greatest gift that you can give to your son or your daughter, even in the midst of these times when you could say, yeah, well, you know, it's long distance learning. We can go down the street. No, there's got to be more to this. And so that's what we're constantly looking at and seeing, how is it that we're going to provide the more.
Thank you so much, Father Matt and Alicia, and thank you, Tim, for giving me that much needed break. I have a couple more things that I want to get through, and I'm thankful to everybody who is still on because we are reaching our time, but this has been such an awesome conversation that I don't want it to be over either. I wanted to start by thanking, we have a number of benefactors to CEF who have joined us this morning. And I wanted to say thank you, especially to Dr. Michael Brennan, who is here with us today, who is a big supporter of CEF. So thank you, Dr. Brennan, for being here today. Obviously, Tim and his wife, Judy, thank you so much for coming. Frank Sanchez, who is another board member for CEF. Yeah, and everybody else who's here with us today. I have one more question to ask Father Matt. Alicia, what do you need right now, and what could we do to support you?
You know, as was explained, we are going to have these workshops, which is the instruction, and then we're going to have these opportunities for lab experiences. So we're having to convert an old library and an old kindergarten into some labs. So we're going to have to, you know, incorporate technology into each of those areas. So we're going to be having to fund 40 Apple computers with obviously desks, and coordinate all of the infrastructure that'll be necessary. And so that's probably going to come between, when everything is said and done, to about $75,000. So that will be one of the projects that we're going to be undertaking immediately to be able to meet this wonderful new opportunity. Alicia?
That's right. That's what I was going to mention. We're in need of even furniture, and definitely having a desktop would be way better than just having the little Chromebooks. That will be the need for immediately, so we can our program can run smoothly.
If you are moved to support St. Lawrence of Brindisi, you can go to stlawrenceofbrindisi.org/donate. On their donation form online, you can see there's a way to give, and it says envelope number, like at a church you see envelope number, but you can just type in school, or if there's anything specific you would like to give to that you learned about from Father Matt and Alicia, you can add that here. I wanted to give a big thank you to Tim, Alicia, and Father Matt for your time and for your services to the family of Watts, and do a little announcement for next week, where we're going to be joined by some representatives of Vision of Hope, which is an organization of the Dominican Sisters that supports 8 elementary schools in Los Angeles and Northern California. You can RSVP at cefdn.org/coffee-with-CEF to join us next week, Wednesday at 10 o'clock a.m. Tim, I just wanted to hand it back to you. If you could tell us a little more about how we can support CEF.
The closer we get to the schools in Los Angeles, the Catholic schools, the more we appreciate the wonderful work they do. And you can support the Catholic Education Foundation with gifts of any size. This is a great investment, as I said. You're investing in these young people, and we give them the chance to get to college and really make a difference. And it's great for these families. It means so much when their kids have the opportunities that they don't. And that's what they want without exception. These parents want their kids to have a better life than they've had. And they want them to be able to go on and pursue their dreams. And they dream about the same things our kids dream about. They want to do something special, and this gives them the opportunity. So we support, last year we had about 10,000 recipients in the Los Angeles Archdiocese, and between elementary and high school. And you can support, believe me, if you've paid tuition, and I have, my kids paid a lot of tuition, and this, if you give 10% of what you paid in tuition for your kids, it will make such an impact on these kids' lives, on kids that can really go somewhere from our Catholic schools. I can't thank you enough. I was thinking, even Father Matt goes down to St. Lawrence as pastor, and my impression is that pastors are usually inside the church, and he felt that he didn't get close enough to really understand. He had to go out to their homes. And to me, it's like watching a game from the bleachers. The closer you get to the field, the more you understand what happens in the trenches. And that's where hopefully these bring you closer to that, certainly bring me closer. And every time I visit a school in the inner city, I just am so inspired by that. And because you drive these freeways and you go to the airport and you go to go play golf or something like that, you don't see what's down there. And we're creating so much opportunity, and your investment, whether it's $1,000, $10,000, whatever it is, it's money well spent. It ain't wasted in these schools. And the teacher would probably, I'm sure, saying 8 is, that's right, Alicia, I get a -5 on my report there saying 8. But I can't thank them enough. They're doing God's work big time.
Well, certainly on behalf of Alicia, our parents, our students, St. Lawrence of Brindisi, thank you, Tim, your board. Thank you, CEF, for all that you do for us. Without you, we would not be open. So we're extremely grateful.
Thank you. And if anybody wants to learn more about St. Lawrence of Brindisi, we have the web addresses for the school and the parish, so you can check them out and see. And if you also look on our CEF YouTube channel, you can watch the video that we're really lucky to have been able to visit and film last year. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming. We're really, really, really lucky to have had you, and thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning and for all that you do for the community of Watts. So thank you all so much. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you next week at Coffee with CEF. Bye.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bless.
Tim.
Thank you all. Thanks again.